Part 2. The Human Story. The story so far. Okay, so we've summarized what we might call the universal spiritual philosophy or mystic path. There is one being, and he comprises everything. He is the essence of our true selves, and the cosmos is a part of him. Everything is a projection or emanation of him, and nothing exists apart from him. Under the influence of our minds, which give us a false sense of who we are, most of us lead pretty humdrum lives, sprinkled with occasional joys and punctuated by periods of trouble and distress. And as a final insult, we are then held responsible for our actions and end up going round and round in a cycle of birth after birth, not necessarily as human beings. It's a tough life, but the good news is that the one being can be contacted within by means of meditation or true spiritual prayer. This makes life much sweeter. In fact, with the right kind of meditation and the right kind of guidance, we human beings can even come to understand what death is all about while still alive. And with a bit of luck and a great deal of effort and divine grace, we can even escape rebirth and return to the one being. And that's the divine purpose in the whole affair. So that's the basics, and for the remainder of this little book, we will look at how this take on things illuminates first some aspects of our human situation, and then some modern scientific perceptions of what life is all about. And I suppose it should be made clear at the outset that just as words and descriptions are quite incapable of conveying the experience of the beauty of a sunset or the taste of a carrot, so too are they utterly inadequate to truly convey the nature of the one being and the spiritual or mystic reality. This means that words can be both a hindrance and a help, so it's best not to get hung up on them. They are just noises in the air or marks on paper. The God word and other concepts. You've probably noticed I've tried to avoid it. The God word. The thing is that the word is so loaded that it's become a serious hindrance. What's in a word, we ask? But when it comes to the God word, a great deal. It's amazing how much baggage can be hung on just one word. Some clever folk ask, who created God? And often the honest answer is, we have. The ideas, conceptions, ideals, and whatnot with which the word God has been endowed are almost entirely of human origin and conception. The God of religion has been largely conceived in the mind of human beings. We've even gone so far as to consider that he has a particular name or names in one language or another, forgetful of the fact that a human word is just a sound or a sequence of letters to which, in our minds, we have ascribed a meaning. If you don't happen to speak or read that language, then that word has no meaning at all. And anyway, languages evolve and die. They too are human creations. The one being, the silent one, is beyond all names and concepts. He is nameless. The name that can be named is not the real name. His big being is the essence of our little being. Did we but know it, there is no difference between the two. He is what we are, and we are what he is. That means that he is within us, for us, of us. Any hint of an idea that he is out there, up there, or even in there, that he is anything other than the essence of our own being, is fallacious. In fact, when we even conceptualize him as our own essence, we have gone astray. He has got nothing whatsoever to do with any of our concepts. He is not what we think. Yet, although we may think we understand all this mystical stuff about the One, and know that He is beyond all human conception, we may still cherish a concept in our mind of a God built somewhat in the image of our own cultural conditioning. And if we put all our effort into trying to realize a mental concept, to feel the presence of an intellectual construct, then that concept will hold us back. Such concepts, held without our even realizing it, can unknowingly hinder us. So let's call Him anything but God. Let's pretend we never even heard the God word at all, and start from scratch in our understanding of the One Being. In fact, let's let go of any attempt to form any opinion or concept of what He is like. Let's admit that we can't understand Him. After all, the Buddhists get along fine without a concept of God as we might understand it. They have no problem developing a deep spiritual life in the absence of a God concept. They seek a state of being, nirvana. But is there a difference between God and nirvana? Only in the realm of concepts. And while we are on the subject, let's realize that all our other concepts are just that too. Just mental hot air inside our heads, just constructs. And that includes our concepts of heaven, hell, soul, reincarnation, the creation, and a bunch of other words we've largely avoided in this book because they are loaded with all kinds of cultural and religious stuff and trigger a conditioned concept. Yes, and our concepts of the mind, the One Being, the Word, and so on, they are all just concepts. We can use them as tools, as communication devices, as ways of trying to understand things at a human level. But if we get to thinking that our concepts are reality itself, then we're on the wrong track. Or so it seems to me in my conceptual mind. A description of something is not the thing itself. Realizing that our understanding of God is mostly conceptual is significant when we get to thinking whether or not such a power really exists. The existence or otherwise of a God is a question asked by everyone who wants to understand things for themselves. Yet the enquiry is rarely prefaced by a rigorous consideration of what we actually mean when we speak of God. Just ask 10 people what they understand by the word God. You will probably get 10 different answers. Most will offer confused conceptions drawn from a mix of social, religious, cultural, and personal influences. Some will describe a God based upon religious beliefs and the reading of religious texts. Some might cast Him in an anthropomorphic light, as a God given to human emotions, liable to be pleased or to take offense at human conduct. A few might portray Him as a universal spirit or as a transcendent, absolute reality. The varied conceptions will reflect each individual's mindset, but can never begin to touch the reality. We may know God by any name or understand Him by any concept. None will do Him justice. Many folk instinctively reject the God or gods of religious doctrine, yet consciously or unconsciously know Him by another name, as nature, beauty, love, or simply as something, unknown and universal, beyond all human conceptions and divisions. Those who try to debunk the notion of a God sometimes take the easy way. It's very simple. First you set up a straw God, choosing the most bizarre aspects of the many prevalent conceptions of the divine. Then you set fire to it, taking the concept apart with the weapons of bald reason, cynicism, and ridicule. But it's a facile approach. Gives atheism a bad name. Anything can be proved by setting up a ridiculous Aunt Sally and then demolishing it. Many spiritually minded people also reject such conceptions of the divine, realizing that there is a far more intelligent way to understand the nature of the divine principle at the heart of things. Whether or not we believe in such a power, a fair discussion of the matter requires proper consideration of the notion of God, of the one divine being, and acceptance of the fact that, should such a being exist, then his nature is going to be far beyond the reach of human argument, discussion, and description. In reality, proof or its absence play little part in whether or not we believe in the transcendent. Heartfelt belief or non-belief in him do not really arise from reason and logic, though they may be supported by it. They arise from awareness, consciousness, perception, and understanding. If we have an inner sense that there is something bigger than ourselves holding everything together, then we will feel that we believe in a God, however we may conceive of him. If we are so inclined, we may then try to justify that belief by reason. But if we have no such feeling and think that life, the universe, and everything provide no indication of the existence of a higher being, then we will have no such belief and may argue the case accordingly. Of course, cultural, religious, and social influences may also have a significant part to play in our belief or non-belief in God. And mere belief in the existence of a divine power is not necessarily companion to a spiritual disposition. Belief needs to be transformed into awareness and experience. Yet whatever our beliefs or experience, it is important that we feel free to consider things for ourselves and respectfully allow others to do the same. Thinking for ourselves. Human life, spirituality included, is full of paradoxes and contradictions, real or imagined. A diamond may have many facets, each reflecting a different color. Yet the various colors do not detract from its oneness. The 10 blind men, who each got hold of a different part of the elephant, all described it differently. Yet their descriptions were all accurate so far as they went. The fact is that mind and intellect have a limited sphere of activity and usefulness. Those who feel that the answer to life, the universe, and everything can be codified and explained in rational and intellectual terms have set out upon an endless journey. You cannot contain an ocean in a teapot. So much of life is a matter of concepts, opinions, and perspectives. Everyone has a different take on things, yet the world is full of self-appointed authorities on every conceivable subject who will gladly tell you how and what to think. Just give them a little prod, and you'll be lucky to escape within the hour or two. They will argue with you and try to convince you of their perspective. Give them less than half a chance, and they'll do all the talking. Did you ever meet someone who tried to convince you of someone else's viewpoint, of a viewpoint he did not share? It's all a question of concepts, opinions, and uncertainty. If things were completely clear, there would be no viewpoints, no discussion. So as soon as a person tries to convince you of something, you can be sure that deep down, they are themselves uncertain about it. They have just never addressed their own uncertainty. And the less certain they are, the more they'll shout. When the argument is weak, shout louder. It's human nature. And in human affairs, there are few certainties because the realm of certainty is beyond the sphere of human perception. Therefore, to avoid being blown off course by every passing breeze, we need to learn to think for ourselves. There's no point in quarreling with anyone, but we do need to assess things against our own inner touchstone of truth, realizing that we are dwelling in the realm of uncertainty. True freedom of speech may be a rare privilege in this world, but no one can take away our freedom of thought. To avoid getting into trouble, we may need to keep quiet about what we think, but we need never surrender the right to think for ourselves. Even so, losing the right to say what we think is a step in the wrong direction. The modern buzzword is political correctness. We're supposed to avoid saying anything that will upset certain groups or cultures. We are expected to conform to a particular social dogma. Well, there's no reason to go about challenging and disturbing others unnecessarily, but the idea has been taken on board by many of the world's authorities, especially the religious authorities, and is being used to suppress freedom of expression. But surely it is only fair that any individual or institution who takes it upon themselves to tell others how and what to think should be open not only to criticism but also to ridicule. Conflicting religious dogmas each claim to be the last word on such matters as truth, salvation, and God, as well as how to live as human beings. But these are such fundamental questions that they must be open to discussion and to freedom of expression and thought. And since, it has to be admitted, religious dogmas and practices include some of the most bizarre constructs of the human mind, surely it is simply a matter of human honesty and decency to permit questioning and criticism? And if someone wants to make fun of our beliefs and practices, why not? This would also seem to be quite acceptable, if not essential. It's a way of pointing out inconsistencies without getting into long debates. Why should we be so sensitive to criticism? Let's develop a little maturity. After all, if Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, atheist, and other belief systems are in conflict on the same basic issues, it seems reasonable to suppose that at least some of their doctrines are misguided. And given the significance of these issues, surely they must remain open to discussion. The more we give way to the dogmatists who claim their feelings will be hurt if anyone disagrees with them, the less freedom there is for everyone, and the more effort we have to make to maintain our own internal freedom of thought. But if we are to be held responsible for our choices by the cosmic accountant, we must remain free to exercise our right to choose. We go through life the best we can. We have no idea why we were dealt the set of cards we were born with. We don't know why things, good, bad, or middling, happen to us in the way they do. Disasters of all scales, from global to personal, come uninvited. Good things too are difficult to orchestrate, and often what we think desirable, when acquired, turns out to be a source of problems. Even if we regard reincarnation as a reality, we can't see the processes by which we are given our just deserts. Just about everything is hidden from our eyes. And yet the sages tell us that we are held responsible for all we do. Strangely enough, that makes sense to us. Even in our legal systems, we are deemed responsible for our actions and are punished for our misdeeds. Yet the cosmic accountant keeps a far more exacting record. All our thoughts and deeds are recorded, not in some heavenly tome, but in the soft, impressionable putty of our own minds. We are the ones who keep the detailed record deep in our own unconscious minds. If we are unaware of this, it is because we are almost infinitely forgetful, not only of our own thoughts and deeds, but also of the one being. So if we are answerable for all we think and do, we need to learn how to control our own mind and how to think for ourselves. And we will have taken a huge step in that direction if only we can become aware of His unending presence within ourselves. It will also be of significant help in dealing with all the suffering we encounter. Why all the misery? Probably the argument most commonly raised against the existence of a divine being is the state of the world. If He is a perfect being of perfect love, in complete control of everything, how come there's so much suffering? It's a good question, and the absence of any satisfying answer has led many down the path of unbelief. That's understandable. It's amazing how adept we human beings are at creating misery for ourselves and other creatures. True, there are many selfless and caring people out there who do their best to make the world a better place. Yet there are many others too who use their superior human intelligence not to alleviate suffering, but to make it worse. The variety of ways we have invented for creating misery is remarkable for its ingenuity. Wars, feuds, jealousies, family disharmonies, competition of every kind, torture, rape, pillage, abuse, bullying, unkindness, prejudice, pollution, filth, and ugliness of every kind. The list sounds like it came from some hellfire preacher of eternal damnation, intent on exposing every last scrap of human iniquity, except that it goes on around us all the time. And as if that wasn't enough, we have to contend with disease, accidents, earthquakes, volcanoes, landslides, tidal waves, hurricanes, blizzards, avalanches, climate change, and a whole lot more. Even the happiest and most caring of people can suddenly find themselves deep in the mire for no apparent reason. And it's not just human beings who suffer. All life suffers. Most life forms can only sustain themselves by killing other life forms. Simply staying alive is the primary aspiration of every living creature. Yet all are destined to die, and very few die of old age. Fear, pain, hunger, and the danger of being eaten by someone else are constant threats. Most creatures compete with each other simply for survival, often with members of their own species. And human beings kill and eat them all. The primary architect of all this mayhem is the mind. Fair enough, but that doesn't answer why the one being did things in the way He did. Why should He have set up a system that results in so much suffering in the first place? Couldn't He have achieved His objective in some other way? There is little likelihood of a rational human answer to the conundrum, for we are not dealing with a being who thinks like us, or even thinks at all. We must presume that His wisdom, intelligence, and consciousness are far beyond the ability of most of us to grasp. But let's pretend for a moment that we can look at things from His perspective, humanly speaking. He is all love, all consciousness, all intelligence. He is all one and all alone, a hidden treasure known only to Himself. But love desires to share. Love needs someone to love. Therefore, the urge arose to create beings who can share in all the love he has. We've mentioned this before. Through his word, his music, his divine power, he has created a vast creation, level upon level of worlds within the orbit of his own great being. To achieve this, he has created the mind, to perpetuate the illusion of separation, to turn his oneness into an apparent multiplicity, creating relationships that we call cause and effect between the hiddenly connected but seemingly separate parts. He creates coverings, bodies and individual minds, out of the substance of each realm in which the little beings find themselves, and each being starts to consider itself separate. The realms of his creation are step-down degrees of his own supreme consciousness or being. In most of these realms, the little beings float around in the bliss of his love and being. Worship of the divine is the most natural thing in their existence, for they are totally aware of their origin. Though separate, they remain consciously connected to him. They don't have to think about it. It's utterly natural to them. They are blissfully happy in their existence, having no desire to return to their original home. They are spiritual beings dwelling in the realms of spirit. But far away, on the outskirts of his creation, so to speak, the one being has created a different scenario, his masterpiece perhaps. Here the separation from himself is intensified by the soul's association with a deeply individualistic mind and the coverings of a material body. So dense are these coverings that the souls are no longer aware of the divine and loving presence that dwells within them, supporting, surrounding, and sustaining their existence. They feel that they are on their own, fighting a losing battle for temporary survival of their bodies and identities. Like a lamp that has been shrouded in many layers of dense, dark cloth, it seems as if the light has been extinguished. We are talking of the physical universe, of course, a tiny part of the entire creation. A hellish place, actually, if the truth be told, though it is also full of beauty if perceived aright, for he is everywhere, and he is beauty. And here the one being has devised his highest purpose. Elsewhere in creation, all the little beings are happy, having no desire to return to him. But here the suffering ultimately becomes so intense that the little beings cry out, often unconsciously, for help, for mercy, for anything to alleviate the pain. The source of all this anguish lies in the depth of the apparent separation. Yet it may take many lifetimes for a little being to relinquish enough of its self-interested focus on its own material life to start to wonder if there's more to life than the daily grind. And here, perhaps, lies the hidden purpose of the one being. For when a little being starts to seek answers to the meaning of its life, it is actually responding to the presence of the one within who gives it its existence. And somehow, by divine design, so the sages say, having experienced the extremity of separation qualifies the little being to travel the entire return journey to its source, to set out upon the journey home and realize its essential oneness with the divine. And this can only happen to a human being. It seems there is a mystery in the way in which human beings are put together. The best of forms, the image of God, the divine human body. These are some of the epithets given to the human form by the sages who seem to know about these things. In this form, not in the form of any lower physical creature, nor as an angel, or as some other being dwelling in a higher heavenly realm, a little being can begin and even complete the return journey to its source. The one being has made a creation in which to experience his own love. He worships himself through us. I was a hidden treasure, and I wanted to be known, so I created the world. Separation from our source, which is the origin of suffering and misery, is a sharp stone in our shoe. Sooner or later, it makes us stoop to seek out the source of the irritation and remove it. And so we return. This is the story of his purpose and design. And does the story satisfy? Well, there must be some truth reflected in it, or the sages would not have mentioned it. But like the man who fell into a well, we can either go on demanding, who built the well? How deep is it? What is the manner of its construction? How come we fell into it in the first place? Will we fall into it again? Or we can take the help of one who offers to lift us out and then see what the situation looks like. But even while we are stuck down the well, in this far-off corner of creation, struggling to make some sense of it all, we have not been abandoned. The divine is always with us. In fact, in reality, there is no far-off corner. He is always there, everywhere. And that's a reason for the greatest joy wherever we may be. Surprised by love. The one being is never absent. How could he be when only he exists? Deep in the heart of every little being lies the big being, the silent one, he who cannot be named, and he is love. At the center of every conscious being and at the heart of every inert particle of existence lies the same essence of love. And love means bliss and supreme consciousness. It is the essence of life and existence. Without it, we wouldn't exist. Every being, no matter who or where, has love. Can a wave exist without the ocean? A sunbeam without the sun? We may have got ourselves into one heck of a pickle, become so wound up that we have forgotten what really makes us tick. But he is still there, the one being giving existence to our little being. That's a part of his purpose in this whole affair, remember? Having created us, he has not gone off on holiday. He is waiting for us to turn to him. And he is very loving, very intimate, very caring, very patient. Without doubt, he has done a strange and inexplicable thing by creating the illusion of separate identity and free will, which he also honors by not forcing an awareness of himself upon his little beings. Yet he constantly seeks opportunities to flood us with an awareness of his inner presence, if only we will acknowledge him just a little. He has done everything out of love, so that he can love himself through us. He cares for us and is always ready to nudge us, to give us a gentle reminder of his presence. His reminder can come at any moment, often when we least expect it. Maybe we are driving along a country road, just minding our own business, when suddenly the beauty of a shaft of sunlight breaking through the overhanging trees catches our heart and turns it over with an unexpected joy. then suddenly the whole of our being seems infused with a radiance that hints of the unseen. The veil between this world and the next seems to have become like gossamer. Everything glistens and vibrates to a hidden harmony. We sense the unifying oneness coursing through all things and present in our own heart. Something inside us starts to sing, for He has touched our being, illuminated us from within, and we are glad. Or maybe we are in distress. Life has hurled its javelins at us, piercing our heart. We may even be wondering how we can go on. There is no clear way forward, and present circumstances are almost more than we can bear. So we contract in upon ourselves. The suffering makes us focus inwardly, and suddenly, like a light in the darkness, a breath of love courses through our inner being. It may bring tears to our eyes with its poignancy. We may not even understand its source, yet we are grateful for the respite. Or perhaps we have been practicing meditation for many years, yet seem to be up against a brick wall. How can we break through to the vast open meadows of being that we feel sure lie just beyond? Then somehow we just relax and let go. And we find that what we had come to think was so far away and difficult to find is already in our possession. We were simply looking in the wrong direction. Or maybe we need to develop greater inner depth and sincerity. And with the kind of love we find so hard to understand, He sends us pain and hardship. And without our knowing, He simultaneously sustains us. And we learn compassion. We come to a clearer understanding of what is important and what is insignificant. We become more humble, and that, we must admit, is always a good idea. We come to realize that He is always there for us all the time. Or perhaps our heart is dry, even disconsolate, and without our even thinking why, we pick up a book and happen upon a sentence or a passage that strikes us so precisely that our heart is suddenly set aglow with bliss and love and yearning, and inwardly we are refreshed. Or it could be an entrancing moment in nature, a picnic with friends at some beauty spot, a chance encounter, an inspiring conversation. In so many ways, each particular to our own selves and to our own inner state at that time, He reaches out to us, or rather draws us into the orbit of His love. Human perceptions are all awry and very limited. When we think we have been abandoned, He may be protecting us. When we wonder where His help has gone, He may be supporting our every step. When we think we are unloved, He may be cradling us in His arms. When we think we can never be forgiven, He has already forgiven us and is only waiting for us to forget ourselves and our guilt. When we think we have doubts, He may be deepening our faith. Such is the magic of the love with which He tends us and which He weaves around us. But since He Himself has given us this illusion of freedom and separateness, He plays the game of letting us slowly discover things for ourselves. Time is no problem for the being who has created time. And in the end, we discover that we have never had a separate existence, but have always dwelt within the sanctuary of His love. So we evolve spiritually, and as our consciousness expands, as our little being merges increasingly into the one being, so we come nearer and nearer to what folk have called nirvana, enlightenment, God realization, union with God, merging with the ocean of love. And when we experience Him within, we find Him everywhere. Then we come to understand that everything and every place is sacred and holy. A sense of the sacred. Modern man has lost his sense of the sacred as an immanent presence in his affairs. True, a glance at human history shows that we have always had more than a strong tendency for negativity and destruction. But until the advent of modern science, our understanding of the cosmos was always linked with a sense of the divine immensity, the rising of the sun, the coming and going of the seasons, life and death. Everything was a mystery, understandable only in the context of a divine being who involved himself directly in nature and in human affairs. The acquisition of scientific knowledge need not have changed that, but it has. Now we see a universe permeated not by a divine presence, but by natural laws, amenable not only to reason, but also to technology, and tractable to the will of man. In such a scenario, ask some scientists, who needs a God? But the reality is that we have simply pushed back the boundaries of intellectual knowledge. We have not uncovered the fundamental truth. Yes, we know a little about natural forces, about the sun, the planets and the stars, about the intricate dance of particles and energy at the heart of matter, about how the body functions, and much else besides. But that need never have dispelled our sense of the sacred. It could so easily have enriched it. After all, we still don't know how all these laws came into being, how we came to exist as conscious beings, where space and time and all that sail in it came from, and how all the particles and forces known to modern science exist in the way they do. In fundamental terms, we still don't know what makes the sun come up. We don't know the secrets of life and death. We don't even know the nature of our own self. We are still faced with a primal ignorance. But now our ignorance has become so deeply hidden through intoxication with our own cleverness that we have become unaware of our ignorance. Even with the clear evidence that our understanding of things has all but wrecked the planet in less than a blink of cosmic time, we fail to see the reason why, and we feel powerless to prevent the approaching catastrophe. Had we but retained a sense of the sacred presence at the heart of things, we would never have embarked on this path of self-destruction. Many of the native peoples of America, Australia, Africa, and Asia have looked on aghast at the ravages wrought by civilized man. Many of them once lived with a sense of being surrounded by a great spirit. Yes, there was much superstition and unfounded belief. But is that not true of our modern age too? The superficiality of material life, the rat race of desire for possession, status, and renown, the psychological imbalances that modern people live with as a result of the unthinking and unconscious chasing of ephemeral dreams that can never be realized, the bizarre beliefs and practices of religion, the dogmatic assertions of science regarding the material nature of reality. These are the modern demons that dog our footsteps, robbing us of our innate spiritual freedom and a sense of the divine. Why do so many of us long for the wilderness? What are we hoping to find there? Magic? Awe? A sense of the sacred? Yes, and we want to find ourselves too, for within ourselves we find a still presence. Call it the one being, call it God, call it anything or call it nothing. it makes no difference. We cannot, in the end, escape the one who sustains our life and being. Why did the early Christian monks leave the distractions of the cities and head for the desert? Why did the yogis and others give up worldly life and seek refuge in the mountains and jungles? To find solitude and stillness, to find themselves, and to commune with the divine presence. The further we stray from our still center, the more distracted and the more miserable we become, however clever we may be. The closer we are to our still center, the more peace and happiness we will find within ourselves. The more we will find spontaneous happiness, even bliss, flooding our inner being, drawing us closer to the Sacred One. And with it comes wisdom and understanding. Once you've tasted that kind of bliss and known that kind of knowledge, you realize that it's worth far more than the sum total of all human knowledge, and it travels with you into death as well. That alone makes it a unique and priceless treasure.